A chill is in the air, pumpkins are spicing everything. It's time for a fall fragrance video. Today is one of the first days that truly feels like fall here. We have the typical humid, moist, cool, damp, gray air, and I was wearing a fragrance today that really started to make me feel the fall spirit, so I thought I'd get on here and talk about some fragrances I'm excited to wear this fall. Many of these are new, so it's somewhat a partial fall haul video, as well as a couple kind of older classics. So we'll start with the one that instigated kind of the itch to make a video, is Chanel number 18. I put a spritz on this last night and really enjoyed it, and so I came back to spray some more again this afternoon. This was actually my first Chanel Les Exclusives purchase, which I think is a bit strange because it's one of the kind of oddball out of the entire line. But that's what intrigued me. It has a very nice kind of warm, boozy opening. Of course, it's all about ambrette. It has this soft, musky skin feel. I've heard some describe in a negative way that ambrette reminds them of the smell of greasy hair. And while I don't get that, I do think there's something sort of warm and bodily about it, but without being stinky. It really smells sort of not of a plant, it smells more of an animal. But I don't really get anything unpleasant in this. It does have a very kind of mysterious wear. After that beautiful sort of semi-sweet boozy opening, it does become a skin scent in the true sense that it feels like it really melds as a part of your skin, but it is long lasting, but very low mellow projection. But I also think that just adds to its mysteriousness, that you're not smelling it all the time, and that's what makes me want to keep respraying it. So it's a really interesting one from Chanel. I used to have this theory, it's interesting how familiarity changes our perception of things, that this was sort of the base of many other Chanels because I felt that I smelled something like number 18 and other dry downs such as Bel Respiro. But now I don't find that so much the case. I suppose more familiarity with these scents has allowed me to really differentiate them more clearly in my mind. But number 18, a gorgeous oddball, a soft, cozy, but also unique and very sort of natural smelling, musky ambrette skin scent. I remember hearing once, I have no idea if this is true, that Chanel had their own like barrel aged casks just for the booze note in this. That doesn't sound right to me, but there is definitely a pronounced kind of boozy opening, but doesn't last very long. It's not the kind of thing that's going to make you smell like you've been drinking. Next up, we'll alternate something new. A Serge Lutens, Le Participe Passé. This is one I hemmed and hawed about for quite some time when I noticed it becoming available on discounters. As far as I can tell, this one is discontinued. I watched and read so many reviews. I don't always love when Serge Lutens goes down the sort of goopy, dense route, and a lot of the descriptions sounded like it would be like that. After probably years of watching it and seeing that it was still there, I nearly blind bought it, but then I thought better and I ordered a load of Serge samples and I tried a little bit of this on and I really liked it. So this is really all about immortelle and the facets that often go along with that, such as coffee and caramel and hay. It is very strong. The day I wore it, I did a spritz and walk through, which is not my usual spray routine because I realized the first time I tested it, I was smelling the card from across my room. But it's also really beautiful. Again, not to keep ragging on this perfume because I think it is a good perfume, the Les Indémodables Immortelle. I do think this could get you your Immortelle fix for cheaper, and I find this more interesting. There's just more to it, and I like it quite a bit. So if you're an Immortelle head, get on this. It is sweet, but the sweetness feels like a natural facet of the material and the composition, rather than the sweetness feeling like a part. Sometimes you get this sort of synthetic sweetness, and it's like, what are you doing here? Like, it's just there to make it maybe gourmand or addictive. But here the sweetness doesn't bother me because it feels like sort of an inherent aspect of the perfume. So last I checked, it's still available here on Joma Shop. So you can still get this while you can. I do think Again, the name Participe passé, some people theorized it was a reference to some of the earlier Lutens. And having tried many of those, I do see things in common with the base of things like chêne. And there were others like Le Poire pour l'Ombre. But I actually like this one the best. It's maybe a little cleaned up. Those other ones always have something like there's a licorice in Le Poire that turns me off a little bit. So this has those nice syrupy, sweet immortelle aspects of some of those old classics, maybe without the weirdness quite so much, although it's still a very characterful perfume. On to another one that I've had for a while. Sometimes I pull fragrances I just want to remind myself to wear. Ostens Cedarwood Heart, a really beautiful, well done sort of cedarwood and iris, a little reminiscent of the Dior Homme scent profile without smelling really like it. As is the case with this perfume brand, smells like really good quality materials, maybe not mind-blowing compositions, but also not overly derivative. Just again, a very pleasant, perfect wear to the fragrance. Cedar has really been growing in my heart lately, my craving for cedar perfumes, and this really scratches the itch with a beautiful, satisfying sort of irisy, woody dry down. And this is one I was excited to get, and then yeah, of course have not worn enough. Yeah, off the cap, I immediately get iris. So Ostens, I really appreciate, they still haven't released anything new. They're just kind of really believing in this initial release of fragrances, which I think is great. And I hope that eventually we will see some new releases because it is a really good brand. Back to something new. Sometimes I make house videos because purchasing something from that house is on my mind and I kind of want to clarify my thoughts. So not too long ago, I made a Celine house video and I finally decided on one to get, Reptile. It's a little bit of a surprise because I had always said that, night clubbing is maybe the most unique of the line. And I think if you want one to kind of represent what's unique about the line, night clubbing might be the one to go to. But after many, many tries, I just think on smell alone, I like the smell of Reptile more. And I also think it demonstrates that sort of sleek, cool, like dressed up, formally dressed up, but in a nightclub kind of atmosphere that night clubbing does. Actually, what bothered me most about night clubbing is the cigarette smoke is actually just too real. And I've always really hated the smell of cigarette smoke. I grew up with two parents who smoked from the generation where they thought it was good for you. And for whatever reason, I never got used to it. I probably complained every single time, which was every single day, about the smell of smoke. I don't find the smell of smoke on someone's clothes attractive. And as interesting and evocative as night clubbing is, I just don't really like it as a smell, if I'm honest with myself. Reptile, I love. It's one of the stronger, bolder fragrances, a real kind of peppery woodiness to it. But again, it has that signature, some of the Celine kind of more masculine leaning fragrances have this mossy dry down, this mossy, musky dry down. It's another kind of curious wear in that it feels very strong, especially compared to some of the more delicate compositions at the beginning, but it doesn't stay overly projecting. It becomes sort of a musky, your skin but better scent as well, which I find very alluring. And I remember a long time ago when I tried the whole line when they first released, that Reptile was actually the one that stuck out to me because again, that dry down was left on a piece of clothing and I really liked it back then. So I'm super happy to have Reptile. I've worn it a few times already and I'm really enjoying it. Back to something classic, something I've had for a long time, Chanel No. 19 Poudre. I love Chanel No. 19 in all its forms. The Poudre feels best for a little bit cooler weather. It has a little bit more sweetness, a little bit more kind of fluffy, cozy musks. Just again, a really satisfying, comforting wear with that sort of semi-sharp greenness, maybe just rounded off a little bit. I don't actually find it more powdery than the other Chanels, than the other 19s. I just find it more round and soft in general. But a really beautiful wear, satisfying kind of irisy green. But once again, it's that sort of cozy, musky dry down that really wins it for me. On to, let's see, again, something completely different, but in the woody vein, something else I need to kind of remember to wear. Gucci Hortus Sanitatis. This is one I was really excited to try coming out of the pandemic. I wasn't able to try this in store. I remember going to the Gucci boutique to try out all the Guccis because this was a boutique exclusive. And as far as I know, it no longer exists anymore. It was never found on discounters. I had to bite the bullet and pay full retail for it. It's a really interesting sort of camphorous woody scent. It has that strong kind of tiger balmy mentholated opening and then dries down to, yeah, sort of woody, slightly incensey. If I had a criticism, there is something like a little bit synthetic about it, but it's just a really interesting scent, right up my alley in terms of sort of woody, incensey, camphorous smells. Again, the name Hortus Sanitatis is a reference to an old book of medicine. I don't find it all that challenging unless you have trouble with camphor and camphoraceous smells. But one, I did wear quite a bit when I first got it. It's pretty strong, but one I've kind of forgotten about and would like to get back to wearing. It really feels like the perfect scent profile for fall to me. Continuing onward, another new one. I'm gradually collecting the hours. They know what they're doing when they create a series such as this. It's so hard not to want them all eventually. Mathilde Laurent probably is doing the most interesting things at a designer exclusive line. Her fragrances overall are very strange, I think, and it's quite nice that a brand like Cartier would allow such kind of free reign in their high-end line. And I'm really curious how well these sell. Maybe they sell better than I imagine. But this is Perdue, one that is created purely out of synthetics. I think the primary one being vanilla materials. It smells a little bit like latex, like balloons, like vanilla. Once again, it has this really intriguing musky dry down that I found a connection. The late dry down was reminding me of something else, and I realized it's the Cartier Oud and Oud. So I think it's a base material she likes. And it's one I've not really smelled before. So I wouldn't call it an oudy fragrance, but because of the synthetic nature of it, it really is a shapeshifter. It's also incredibly strong. I wonder if maybe some people can't perceive the synthetics as well, but for me, it's incredibly strong. So I have to be a little bit careful, but it's just such an oddball. I think summer would not be the appropriate time for this. Although it doesn't really, it's so abstract, it doesn't feel like it invokes any particular season. But I think the cooler weather is going to do this some favors. I only got it recently, and I'm excited to be wearing Perdue from Cartier. Okay, onwards and upwards. Let's do another one I talked about that's newish, maybe a year old, but I also wore it recently, so it's top of mind. It is the big, hilarious green bottle that is Rebo from Milano. They created this kind of extra exclusive and expensive collection, but I was intrigued by it from the start when I first heard of its release because it's by Antoine Lee and it features hay. And I like hay, grassy, sort of horsey scents, and it's named after a horse. And indeed, I sampled it before biting the bullet, and I liked what I smelled, and I bought it probably about a year ago now. And I wore it the other day, and it was really enjoyable. Again, probably the most realistic, best smelling hay fragrance I've tried. And I've tried several, but maybe not all of them. I'm sure not all of them. And then it kind of dries down to a sort of soft but long lasting sort of resinous labdanum base. There's a really beautiful puff of irises jasmine and leather at the beginning. And yeah, again, just a really interesting wear. The scent that's left over on the shirt the next day is kind of the pure hay absolute. It doesn't feel all that complex. It really kind of has three parts. It has that more bright opening with a hint of floral, and then it's hay, and then it's kind of resiny labdanum. Again, one of these that wears pretty close to the skin but feels very dense and concentrated and lasts a long time. So it just depends on the way you like things to wear. The retail price is absolutely insane. I haven't checked recently, but I paid a price I was willing to pay on discounter for this one. So Rebo, I still don't like this bottle. It's extremely heavy. It's pretty ugly, even though I like emeralds and I like the color green because my eyes are green. But we'll forgive it. It smells great. Okay. While we're on semi-indie things, although Mask Milano is not really indie, a Hendley called Fume, a tiny little Hendley, which I got recently. Now I've tried Hendley. I've tried just about all of them. Believe it or not, being the fine French fragrance snob that I am, you might not think that I've tried loads of indie perfumes. Part of this was because I got really into the podcast American Perfumer, which is a great podcast where guess what? He interviews American perfumers. And I tried many of their works, and I disliked many of their works. And I don't really like ragging on small one-person operations, so I've struggled about whether to make a video about them or not. I think it's just your jam. I never liked DIY art. I don't like punk. I don't like listening to people play music who don't know how to play music. Some people find this interesting, and I'm not saying these perfumers are making perfume and they don't know how to make perfume, but just a kind of rough hand done aesthetic. I'm a little bit snobby in that sense. I like things glossy. I like things refined. I like things done with a high level of professionalism. I think Hendley speaks to me maybe more than others because I think he doesn't overcomplicate things. There is a refinement and simplicity to his fragrances that I like. This I bought because there was a little sale. This was one I had never tried. It sounded nice. It's sort of a green incensey thing. What I like about this is, unlike some other indie perfumes, when they do smoke, it's like really dark, hardcore, charred, smoked meat. This is not. This is more like a green, coniferous kind of smoke. It's very nice. Is it mind-blowing? No. I've smelled other perfumes in the genre that are just as good. It doesn't seem to bring a whole lot new to the genre, but it was a really enjoyable wear. I like green fragrances. I like piney, coniferous fragrances. If you like them too, you might give this a try, but if you're expecting something really in your face and really kind of experimental, it's not that at all. It's actually really quite elegant and soft for a kind of smoky, woodsy perfume. So very glad to have this. I'm not sure I'll upgrade to a larger bottle, but maybe it'll grow on me and I'll wish I had more. 2 more left, I guess. We're running on to 20 minutes. Another brand new purchase. Again, maybe one slightly out of character for me. Frederic Malle Promise. One I had said in the past that I don't particularly love. I always find it a little too hardcore, a little too bitter, too rough in the like the cypriol facets. But I tried a sample of it actually in summer, and I really liked how it wore. I think it wears really nicely in high heat because that rough bitterness can really cut through the humidity and the grossness while it has those bright, juicy apple facets. So yeah, it's just a really well done sort of hardcore, sort of like hookah bar smell, mixing smoke with fruity aspects. And yeah, just once again, there's a theme here. The dry down won me over. No doubt it has some amber woods. It has sort of an aggressive, almost gasoline-like cypriol accord, but I liked it. I really came around to this, and I'm super happy to have a bottle and be wearing it in cooler weather. Although, like I said, I think if you haven't tried it before, try it in summer, try it in the heat. It was actually nice. So that's Frederic Malle Promise. I do like it more than Hope, which it gets compared to, because Hope seems to amp up. It says it has oud and it's much more expensive, but it also seems to amp up the kind of amber woods as well. So I think while it's the cheaper of the Desert Gems, I don't think it's necessarily the lesser of the Desert Gems. It's just a different scent profile that's not so heavy on oud. Speaking of oud, another one I got maybe a year ago, Faux Semblant by Givenchy. This is from their dark bottle, often kind of oud themed range. This was one, once again, it wasn't on my radar, although I had tried the Givenchys and thought they were actually pretty well done. but this was not one I had tried, but I saw it pop up on Discounter. For some reason, only this one and none of the others. So I sought it out, and it was Orange Blossom with kind of oud and incense and sandalwood. And I love me an Orange Blossom, and I've really come to love this. What's interesting is the first time I tried it, mostly all I got was Orange Blossom, and I kind of thought, meh, I don't know. And then later I tried it, I got more of the oud, more of the resins. Now that I own it, I really do smell the oud, especially late dry down. I do believe there's some real oud going on here. You get that nice sort of woody core that sticks to clothes for days and days. Again, one of these kind of concentrated, it's very oily when you spray it, therefore somewhat low projecting fragrances, but I feel like I have a theme of many of these. They have this sort of quiet but really satisfying humming along dry down that I find just really suits fall weather nicely. So yeah, Orange Blossom, kind of smoky incense and oud, not heavy or obvious oud, but there's like a real resin base to this that gives it some heft that you don't usually experience in Orange Blossom fragrances. And I think that makes it really unique and makes me really like it. So that's all we have here for today. And I hope you are enjoying the fall or spring if you're on the other side of the globe. And I'll see you next time.